pretty sure when my roommate gets home, she's gonna be super concerned that there is a tripod at the end of my bed, but this will all make sense when she sees this video. If you don't know, I'm Alex. I want to give you a little introduction because this is the first video of this series that I'm doing. I'm calling it Woman Up. So how this came about was, for 2017, I wanted to take the time and listen to stories of other successful women, feel inspired by them, be motivated. And I was talking to someone I really look up to, and I was telling her all this and just saying how, I really want to do something more meaningful and I don't know, just for my social platforms. And she looked at me and said, Alex, why don't you make that a series for Instagram and YouTube? And I was like, oh my gosh, why don't I do that? So I started putting together a list of names. I was like, okay, who's gonna be my first interview? And I went with someone I work with, Patty Rodriguez, because I really look up to her. She is someone who wears so many hats. Not only is she on the morning show at my radio station, but after she does that, she's an author for children's books. She has a jewelry line that people as big as Katy Perry wear. She just did a TED Talks. So I thought it would be super cool to hear her story, have her share her story, and I guess let's dive right into it. Here's my interview with Patty Rodriguez. All right, so the reason why I wanted to sit with you today was obviously I work with you, and I feel like all of LA knows you because of your voice in the morning with Ryan and Sisney, but you are someone who I feel like is so inspiring to me in the sense that you have your job here at KIIS-FM, but at the same time, you have a jewelry line, you're an author, I feel like you wear so many different hats, and then also you pour back in to your community. And I think the first thing I wanted to lead off with all that being said, is with so many things that you do, why is it so important for you to use your platform to give a voice to your community, to other women, and really just use your platform for something more?
Well, first of all, thank you, Alex, for having me. I'm excited to talk to you, even though I see you every day. It's always nice sitting down here in the nice sunny California. Perfect weather. So going back to your question, why is it that everything that I do goes back to giving back to my community? And I've asked myself that a few times, and I think I finally came back with an answer. And it all comes from me not having those people to look up to growing up, people that look like me, mentors, people that I can go to and try to figure myself out. I kind of had to do it on my own for many years, because there's not many people of color in the positions that I was dreaming about growing up. I didn't see them in these positions where television, magazines, book authors, media. We work in this creative space, and growing up, there wasn't many people that looked like me in this space. And my heart didn't want anything else but to be part of this space so badly. And I was trying to convince myself that I belonged there, even though I didn't see anyone that looked like me. So now that I'm here, working for one of the biggest radio stations in the world, if not the biggest, with the biggest host, there's no way I can come here every single day without encouraging my community to do the same. It doesn't have to be in this space, but in any space they want to be in, they see themselves in, especially children. I think we want to shape the world. We want to change the world. We want to create world peace and all those beautiful things that we always talk about. It starts with children. And if we can give our children the tools that they need, we give them the mentors, we show them the people that look like them. It is possible. It's not just talking the talk, like, oh, we want world peace, we want a better world for our children, we want inclusivity. I feel like everyone's just talking and talking and talking, but we're not creating action. And I think it starts with our children. We have to create that action immediately from the minute they're born, to give them the tools, the power, not just make them believe, but be it a fact mentally and in their heart that they can be whatever it is that they want to be.
As a mother, because you have 2 babies, right? Yes. As a mother, how do you do that? How do you put that into practice? Because I know I'm not a mom yet, but I often wonder, just even when I ask myself, you talk about a lot of talking, but how do you instill that action, inspire action in yourself or with other people? How do you do that with your kids? And how do you talked about something that was interesting, because I was going to ask you, who inspired you? Who were your mentors growing up? And to hear you say, as a woman of color, I didn't really have a lot of that. How do you make sure your kids, and then especially other little young girls, teenage girls, feel like they have that?
With my children, I think when I had my first son, when I was pregnant with Alexander 7 years ago, it's when the idea behind Little Libros, my bilingual children's publishing company, started, because I loved books growing up. Like, I used to eat them up. I don't know if you remember reading Sweet Valley High, The Babysitter's Club, like all those series. I would just like literally go to the library and pick up 9 books, read them in a week. Like, I was obsessed with books. So it was something, a fascination of me of, and I think, being pregnant and saying, I need to introduce my children to books, because books are literally the first key you give a child to life, to imagination, to dreams, to goals. But I also wanted to make sure that he saw himself in these books, that his culture was celebrated, that his traditions were also celebrated, and I couldn't really find those books. So I started thinking about creating books for our children. And thus, Little Libros was born. And with the support of our community, our books, are doing extraordinary. We're at Target. It's pretty. We have 9 titles, and I mean, I'm not gonna go into details, but these books are exactly what I wanted our children to have. Beautiful, high quality books that someone can look at them and say, "Wow, these books were created by these, Latina women," for our community, and not just our community, but for all our children, because all our children need to see all these cultures. That, we live in a country where, it's not in a world where there's just so many different cultures, so many different people, and everyone has something beautiful to share. And I think you can do that with books and introduce that to children and introduce that to them.
You are constantly evolving, growing your brand. And I, quite frankly, I can't even wrap my mind around how you have the time to do that. How do you even stay inspired to do that?
The love I have for the things that I do. I'm so passionate about these things that I'm creating, and I feel that we're all capable of being able to do that. If you really think about it, like, why are we here? I think we're all here to create. I really believe we're all here to make the world a better place, and I think some of us just lose track of that. But I feel like if we were all doing exactly what our heart wants us to do, I know it sounds really crazy, but the universe gives you the hours that you need a day to work toward your goals and your dreams. I know it sounds insane, because I remember, there was, I've not always been this way. There was times when I would just sit at home before the baby. I think I was just kind of like on cruise control. Didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I had a great job here with, at KIIS-FM. And I was like, what else do I need to do? Like, I'm on top of the world working here. But, there was days when I would just feel that I didn't have enough time during the day, yet I wasn't doing anything. You find yourself like, oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for this. But they were just excuses I was giving myself. Then after I had my baby, I literally had this like awakening moment the minute that I held him. And I said, this life is no longer about me. I have to make the world a better place for my children. Like, I can't even, I'm going to get emotional, but there's just like no way I can go on with my life not giving the best I can give to my child. Because if I'm going to tell my child that he can be whatever he wants to be, I can't just talk the talk. I have to walk the walk. and say, your mother went after everything she wanted to do in her life. So here you have a role model living with you. You don't have to look elsewhere. I'm giving my child, those tools that I didn't have growing up, because, I come from immigrant parents, and they were working 16-hour days just trying to make, the bare minimum. I'm not, that was, the sacrifices that they made were pretty incredible. But, they didn't have the resources to give me for the things that I was asking for, so I want to be able to do that with my child and, and our children. And I hope, all parents and everybody, it takes a village to raise a child, and it's everybody's responsibility to raise our children in this planet, whether they're yours or not. It really is.
And I think, though, I'm happy you brought up your parents, because I know we've talked about them before, and how they, even though you said that they didn't have a lot of the means to give you certain tools, I know that they inspired you, or at least I know that they played a big role in your life based on what I've gathered from what you've told me before. And I know also, because you have parents who are immigrants, especially in today's political climate, I think it's made you even more passionate about acting and making sure we're standing up for what's right, and not only using our voices to speak out against certain things, but also moving and action. We go back to that action we kind of talked about a couple of minutes ago. I know for me, I'm always asking myself the question, okay, what more can I do? As a white woman, how can I be a better ally to women of color, people of color? I think especially with everything going on with ICE, with the immigration debate happening in this country, what are more things that we can do to help this?
Well, that's a good question, but I think it all comes down to oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever been asked that question.
Really?
No, that's a good question. Sorry.
No,
What can you do as a white woman? I think, being an ally is clearly something that we need more of. I think we need more compassion, not just saying that I'm here for you when our community is going through something, but speak up as well. And I think that's one thing that we don't do enough for each other. We should be doing that more for each other when something's not right, when something's happening within our communities. Sometimes we feel like we're doing it alone and no one is listening, and we need more people to be like, well, that's not right. We need to speak up, and we need to use our voice. Our voice is very, very valuable. And I think when we see, especially when we see things that are not right, whether it's in the workplace, especially in the workplace, there's always a lot of things that women and people of color go through a lot. We have to look out for each other, speak up for each other. I'm very vocal about those things, in my life with everything. If I see something that doesn't feel right, I do my best to use my voice to make sure, like, hey, this person needs, or this person should get this. This person deserves this. This person did a great job with this. Those things matter. As opposed to just staying quiet and doing nothing about it. I think that's very important. Like, we have to support each other, speak up for each other, speak up for what's right, always for what's right. And also, when you see something that's not right, that's done to others, speak up as well and say, well, this wasn't fair for this person. This needs to be done right. I think that's what we need to be doing more of. All of us.
Yeah, but you've always been, and I do know that about you, based on what other people that we work with have said about you, that's something that I can say you put into practice, which I really appreciate it, because I think that for me, that's something challenging, where I always have to challenge myself and take a step back and be like, okay, you you might have to, I'm a big believer, let me say this, I'm a big believer in if someone is doing something well, not just saying it to their face, but going to their bosses and being like, hey, this person's really good at this, and highlighting that. And I think that especially, like we said, for other women too, it is just kind of having each other's back and having that camaraderie. I want to ask you one more question because I know you're super busy, but I think my final question to close on would be if you could, to kind of have this interview go full circle, if you, how do I phrase this? What is one thing you wish you could tell your 9-year-old self that you wish something maybe you wish you knew, a bit of maybe encouragement that you think you needed when you were a young girl, something that you know now that you hold as a truth, anything like that?
Oh my God, I would tell myself so many things, but I think the biggest advice I would say is don't listen to other people. Don't listen to other people telling you that you can't do it, that you're not able to do it, that you're not capable, that you don't have the education to do it. You know, all those you can't, you won't, and you don't. Just don't listen to them. And I think children are so vulnerable at that age. And not just tell myself that to myself, but if I could also mentor myself, you know, be there with me and walk me through these things at that age where, you know, a child is so vulnerable. I think that's what I would do. I would go back in time and hold my hand. That's what I would do.
I love that answer, though. I think that's the best answer. Well, Patty, thank you so much for sitting down with me today and being my first interview.